What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So we've just come off the back of an IGN presentation surrounding the world of Gotham as it's going to be depicted in Gotham Knights. And this was a very interesting showcase. I think it's one of the better ones that we've seen in a while. And of all the things that have actually, come forward, this is one that seems to be opening the door for a discussion from a whole different perspective than we've seen. For the last few months, last few weeks, we've been all in on the combat, the suits, a lot of the presentation, animations, and so on and so forth. So it's nice to take a short break, or at least a diversion, to look at the open world, the levels, and all of its presentation, and to talk about them. Now, there is a lingering question, and I've seen about 2 or 3 comments anyways from my last video, asking the question, where are the civilians, and why is the open world, in a sense, bland, or lacking a population of, elements in terms of civilians or activity or life as the game goes on? This is a very good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I guess we could say maybe they depopulated the city so that you can focus on the elements they were trying to show, which are the buildings and the structures and the levels, and so you can kind of focus on those things. But even in a presentation, if you look, you would see some civilians. You would also see some vehicles over, moving around the world and just going their own way and doing their own thing. And I think this actually makes a little bit of sense because this is nighttime in Gotham. So here's the thing. I think the whole conversation surrounding the population density is in a position where we're talking about, say, maybe like Spider-Man. Marvel Spider-Man has a huge population density in the game. And a lot of people are expecting that kind of population density, possibly because the developers actually tease that. And so it is something that people are looking forward to. But maybe we need to consider that even though Gotham Knights will have some population activity going on, you're also going to have activities that are related to goons and enemies and factions, but it will probably not be the same amount of population density as you would get in a Spider-Man game, because no Arkham game in the past, and this is where we jump into the Arkham conversation, has ever needed a population density to be successful or to fail. So I don't think that's necessarily something that is a huge element of this conversation. I mean, it's already there. There already is a civilian presence. And if we are to be fair, we got to see some of it. We saw some of it in the gameplay reveal from the Nightwing Red Hood gameplay trailer, or gameplay showcase, not a trailer, where after Knighthood took down that ice cream truck crime mission, one civilian NPC said to him, "You're my favorite, Red Hood," and then he grappled away. So there are going to be those civilian elements. And then if you also look at the gameplay reveal that was actually first shown to the whole world, which is the Batgirl gameplay reveal, that she was encountering this mission with Mr. Freeze, that boss fight, you're also going to see a lot of civilian activity. So in my opinion, I think the density of civilians is more than likely going to have some kind of a scripting to it, in a sense. I mean, this is from what I've seen, so I can't necessarily confirm. But, what we all have here is that there seemed to have been a lot of population density or civilian activity going on when Batgirl was trying to make her way to Mr. Freeze to probably maybe increase the action, cars smashing into one another because the weather elements were all wonky. And then when she made her way close to that huge, tower, she pretty much dealt with some civilians that were actually standing by the corner, and then enemy NPCs that were surrounding the plaza. So yes, there are, agencies that will provide some kind of a life teeming in the world. But the question is how much of it is needed and how much of it is feasible. So if we look at, say, Batman Arkham Origins, which is the last game that they made, there were barely any civilians there was none. It wasn't a matter of, say, if there were civilians or not. And some people have critiqued Arkham Origins that there were no civilians on the road, so it was just barren and all of the above. But they use the story elements to actually explain that. In the case of Arkham City, there were necessarily no civilians, except maybe some who had found themselves in the prison and were not necessarily guilty, but they were used as, little pockets of side missions, and the entire city was populated with goons. So there was a story and a narrative element there as well. In Arkham Knight, the city of Gotham needed to be evacuated because there was a threat. And so if you notice, there is a purposeful narrative element to empty out the city. So I wonder if there's going to be a narrative element that will explain why the population density isn't as much at night in Gotham. I guess if we say nighttime is one of the explanations, that would probably make a whole bunch of sense. Could it also be that because Batman is now somewhat, out of the picture, people are being more cautious, people, and Gotham in its sense is not necessarily the teeming, vibing Gotham that it is, and people are taking less risks and being outside at night. And so that could be a story element that really does bring forward a valid explanation as to why this is the case. But nonetheless, I think if you also go back and say, okay, well, if you don't have civilians, then where are the enemies? Like, say, if you were looking at the other Arkham games where you could see a crew of enemy NPCs gathered in different pockets and different corners. And that's a very interesting question. I think that's something where maybe because of this showcase, the developers just picked out little parts of the city or little clips where they could just show more of the city elements and actually ignore those things for now and put those things aside. Because those things aren't really too difficult to do. You can just pretty much make specific locations, spawn enemies at a given time when the character or the main player is in that area. So you don't necessarily have to have those enemies just doing something while the game is running, because that's going to be very expensive. So you kind of want to level stream it. If you notice, say, Batman Arkham Knight, you only realize that a bunch of the goons are pretty much wherever it is that you are or wherever it is that you can see using your night vision. So it will load and stream a bunch of random NPCs that will spawn around that area, and then they're going to have their conversations and all of the above. But those enemy NPCs provide mini game modes for you. So you can be gliding around the city or riding around the city, and you can engage in a combat scenario with them. It's always pretty cool because there's a soundtrack that goes with it. It's a specific soundtrack for the street fights. And so that's something that, different games would do differently. But I don't think this showcase really does give us a lot in terms of the answer. But I just decided that I will posit some of my own ideas and possible explanations as to why this may have been the case. And again, because I know maybe somebody might jump on me, I cited the Batgirl gameplay that was revealed in 2020. And I've always cited this as part of the game, but it seemed like I was making stuff up. Just recently in this open world reveal, it appeared to be confirmed that this Mr. Freeze boss fight is actually going to be in the game. If you go back and watch the IGN presenter actually talk about that plaza, he seemed to have confirmed it. So there will be some presence of civilian activity. The question is how much, when, and where are we going to be seeing them? Because clearly we saw that in the Batgirl gameplay, and then we saw a different level of density in the Nightwing gameplay. Hopefully there's going to be more to be revealed to us, and we'll be able to probably draw some more of a conclusion, or it might be something where we wait till we get the story basis as to what the population density is actually like at nighttime, and that might be able to resolve all of this. So thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon. Peace out.